All right, this is Moon in house 11th house in Gemini. Now the signs and houses, and let me just say the reason I do signs and houses, and the reason I do it first is because like a lot of what I say from that, you can get your own, have your own judgment, your own intuitions. You could bring a lot of information together about your placement, you having this placement, or somebody else you might have this placement. So just keep that in mind. Now, Cancer's in the 12th house, Gemini's is in the 11th house. Remember our decorator concept. Any sign on a house decorates that house with the the furniture, if you will, of the house it originally rules in the original zodiac um, order. So Cancer, 12th house. Cancer is the decorator of the 12th house. It brings fourth house things into the 12th house. Okay, so fourth house is again it's that place where we have to nourish, protect, defend anything, whatever. Our own inner peace, our mental health, our psychological founding, our emotional security. That's why it's connected to the home also, family. All of these, generally, you either have to nourish, protect, or defend. Your culture, tradition, you know, so, and all of that is coming into the 12th house. 12th house is, you know, uh, that place where we are victim. We express that we victim to something, whatever it is. It's the house of where you release, sadness and grief and loss. It's a place of, institutions. It's a place where you go to escape, hospitals, prisons, um, any institutions of all kinds. So Cancer comes in there and decorates that house with everything, like I just said, from the fourth house. It decorates the 12th house with. You could think of it as an actual room. I gave this example, I think, in the moon in Gemini, in the sixth moon in the sixth house in Gemini. You actually look at the houses as actual places. Like you go to these places as an actual house, and you are just pretend you're the sign that's there. That's like I'm Cancer, and I go actually into a real actual house, and then I go into this room. This room has this title on it. It says uh, escape, escapism, escape tendencies, and also, and let me give you an example. I would go and I would decorate that. I would put um, my most inner self in this house, in this room of escapism, and that becomes an event. We'll get to that. And also, what I wanted to say is the 12th house is also the house of self-sabotaging behavior. It's the house of the unconscious, the imaginary. When we harming ourselves, we're not aware of it, generally speaking. And then the 11th house, Gemini comes up and decorates the house. Gemini originally rules the third house, communication, passing a message from one to the other, connecting mentally with other people, your environment, your local environment, your daily, your Walmarts, gas stations, in the local environment, your local neighborhood, neighbors, the local town. Okay, it brings all of that up into the 11th house and decorates the 11th house with that, with everything I just said. 11th house, it's the house of similar interests, people who have similar interests, and we share these similar interests. Um, your incoming liquid money that's coming in, your long-term wishes, goals, hopes. That part of us that just wants to change society and make things better for humanity. Like this is a house of fans and fanatics. fans of that. They're the same thing, but it's a house where like you want to be, or you become. I don't know if you want to be, but you become like social causes. Like you people like who got heavy 11th house influence. They actually become the social cause. Like Malcolm X, prime beautiful example. He was with the Nation of Islam. That would be 11th house, and then he became this icon. He like not wanting to in purpose, but he like man, he became the Nation of Islam. That's at least how a lot of people saw it. So I'm just giving you an example. So let's do event to energy to event. Event will happen where you would say something like, uh, event is simply when that decorator, the sign is there. They put a chair in a house. They put something from the fourth house is Cancer. In the 12th house, we're talking about it'll put the chair of our innermost self in the room of, you know, self-sabotaging behavior. So that becomes an event. So he's put that thing there, and boom, that's the event. You bring your innermost self into this room of self-sabotaging behavior. You just put it together. Innermost self. Um, when you go to that place of your innermost self, that's where you'll find self-sabotaging behavior. Now, you take that energy or take that event, you turn it to an energy. Feel everything the moon is. It changes, it turns that event hasn't gone away, it hasn't changed. It's simply transformed into an energy. That's the moon there. Moon takes it to another house and expresses it there as a completely new event. Take that feeling, and it now comes into Gemini 11th house. What's an event of Gemini in 11th house? Communication. Remember third house. Now that's the chair. That's the furniture is putting in the 11th house. Of similar interests. The similar interest simply is communication. So now you put it all together. Let's give a couple examples. The one I just did. Your innermost self is somehow like when you go to that place right there. When you go to that place, that's where you either want to. It's self-sabotaging behavior. Like you either want to harm yourself because of what's going on in your innermost self, or you want to escape from that because of what's going on in your innermost self. You have a feeling about that, whatever the feeling is. Moon takes it and puts it in the 11th house. I need to communicate these feelings to my friends. I need to communicate this feeling to my friends because again, the communication is a similar interest. Another example would be, victim, being a victim to something. 12th house, Cancer, and fourth house is also early childhood. So you simply bring the early childhood up into this victim house. In your early childhood, you felt victim to something. Now you have thoughts about that. That's the moon. Thoughts, thinking. You share your thoughts on that with the people, with your 11th house. You communicate with your friends, with your fans, with your your people with similar interests about that, about those experiences in your early childhood, and man, I feel victim and stuff like that. So that's something. That's how these people express. That's what they would say. They would say something like that. They would say something also like, let's say, kind of like AA. Perfect example right here, because you taking, also 11th house or 12th house is like, in a way, it's the same thing like victim. When you're addicted to something, you feel a victim to it. You have thoughts about that. You have feelings about that. So you take these two, turn them into an event or into an energy, thoughts and feelings. Share the thoughts and feelings, and they inform. Let's give another event of the 11th house of your long-term wishes, goals, hopes, and Gemini. So your long-term wishes, goals, and hopes. It could be to like communication, like you really want to reform society with communication. So like uh, that could be something that's based, like if you have these goals for communicating and having, passing one message to, from one to another, like that's a dream. It could evolve around, um, these victim tendencies that you had. Like these people, like they really want, like people, it's about expressing the victim in us, like surviving R. Kelly. Another example. There's an example for you. All these girls, they were, when they were younger or something like that, they were victim. They were abused. That's also the 12th house. Fourth house, that innermost self, right? That peace of mind. So these women, like their psychological foundation just wasn't there. They didn't feel emotionally secure because, you know, whatever happened, they got molested, right? They got molested, and now they feel victim. Now they got to share. They come into this 11th house of people who with similar interests, all these girls, and communication. Gemini's right there, so they communicate and share information and receive information. Beautiful example. And so like Moon and Gemini in the 11th house, like you really emotionally attached to those things. The key um, is to not become too attached to those things to where there's no difference between like you know communicating these things with your friends or everything Gemini 11th house is and your own peace. Like there's no difference now. So watch out for that. Watch out to not overly attach to yourself to you know um, to that. That way you sleep much better at night. And the very fact of balance and not putting too much emphasis on this and not too little is the key right there. That's the very key. Um, uh, yeah. So you know these like these people are so they're deeply rooted in their goals. They're really deeply rooted in their goals, and um, so if you know somebody like this, you know why now. You know that they're not. You know you have a better idea of where it's coming from. Peace.